Take your iPhone out, you record the exact camera shot that you want, the exact performance you want, you give it to our model, it will now take that exact motion and apply it to the generative model. A lot of people think like AI is a new camera. AI is not a new camera. AI is the world.
That's Amit Jain, CEO of Luma AI. His team isn't just building a generative model, they're building AI that understands reality itself.
We want to generate, understand, and operate in the physical world. The next model is almost done training. It's a categorically different model. We are thinking very deeply about how would people create in the future. There's just no infrastructure on the planet to actually be able to address this demand of video.
From AI on the lot and VP land, this is Inside the AI Studio.
Amit, thanks for coming. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me a bit about what's happening with Luma AI and world models.
Absolutely. So at Luma, we are focused on building multimodal intelligence. And what that means to us is fundamentally that we want to solve the problem of what intelligence or AI is necessary to be able to generate, understand, and operate in the physical world. So think about the problem, right? Like, if you're making a movie, if you're just thinking about that, you don't just need dumb pixels to be generated, and then you're just constantly prompting and talking about it. You need world-level intelligence. What I like to say is that a lot of people think like AI is a new camera. AI is not a new camera. AI is the world that you're replacing or simulating, right? Just the inference algorithms are the camera, but it's irrelevant. So you need the ability and intelligence that exists in the real world, the level of physics that exists in the real world. That's what you need to do. So we call our model world models because they learn not just from video, but also from audio, images, and text. So humanity's entire digital footprint. And the end result of that is they learn a concept in text, in reasoning, right? Like, how to reason about it. What does it mean to drop something, right? Oh, it might shatter. It hears it. It sees it like how humans do. And so our goal with that is one day we end up with models that are as good a companion to ourselves and understand our world, help us create things that like LLMs can't get to yet, right? LLMs are good at coding and these kind of things, but of course they have no zero world understanding. So that's what we are solving.
You talk about, that AI is not a new type of camera, and you're building a world model. Yeah. But one of the issues, especially in like sort of the filmmaking space, is that idea of camera control, of like being able to move a camera or control a camera like we would in the real world. How does that develop further where we can in the future like operate a camera in an AI world?
So let's talk about how you do this in the real world, right? When, let's say you're the director, right? And you have cinematographers and cameramen and people around you. How do you tell them, hey, this is what I want? What do you do?
I asked him, like, I want the shot,
right?
Track here and let's orbit around the left side. And
you do this. Yeah. You say like, oh, I want you to go there, right? These kind of things. Do you talk to them in words like 60 degrees to the right, move like, 1.5 meters this way? Nobody does that, right? Yeah. We talk to each other naturally because the person who is operating the camera is a human and has a brain that can completely get the context, even like, augment it, make it better. It's like, maybe you said, oh, come from the front, but they're like, oh, maybe if I don't track it exactly this way, maybe if I do it slightly here, because of the way lighting is, it looks better, right? With AI models, it shouldn't be any different. Right now, most people who are building controls in this space, right? There's a lot of different approaches that are being come about, and some of them are very, very interesting, no question about it. But most of them are very procedural. They're very much like, using old Adobe products, right? Not like talking to an intelligent person who is manning a camera. So my thesis on that front is you want the level of cinematic control even more than what is possible in the real world. Because in the real world, if you told that person, hey, I want you to hang from the ceiling and then come at it at 30 kilometers per second, you can't do that, right? You can tell them, they can understand it, they will laugh at you, but that's it, right? They won't actually follow through with that. But there's no reason why in generative space, you can't do that. Like there's no physical constraints to that. So the solution to the problem is models need to be intelligent. So when you talk to them, like you talk to a person, they do what you expect them to do. That's the solution, basically.
Sometimes I find, talking doesn't always work, or you say something and
because the models are dumb as rocks.
Well, not even with the model I'm talking about, like even with the real life person example, I might, tell the DP like, hey, I want to like push in here and like have a medium shot, but her understanding of that is different than what I'm saying. So sometimes it's like, I just want to, frame up and show you something. Can we ever get to that point where we're like,
so the inputs
we don't have to talk to it, we can move?
Inputs we think for our models are the same as the inputs we have with humans. As you said just now, either you can say, but sometimes the thing you're saying has to be more specific than what you can express in words, right? Then what do? You if you're working in the editing room, right? You circle and you highlight, say like, oh, well, but this doesn't look right, right? But if you just said this, they're like, what are you talking about? You circle, you highlight. These are natural ways we have learned to talk to each other. And when we want to be more specific, you're going to go like, but okay, come here and do this kind of thing, right? So there are many people within the team that are very actively exploring that way of working. Next week, we are about to launch a new feature. It's called video performances. It's the first domino on that thing where you can't yet tell our model to do exactly what I'm saying right now. But what you could do, take your iPhone out, you record the exact camera shot that you want, the exact performance you want, you give it to our model, it will now take that camera performance, it will now take that exact motion, things like that, and apply to the generative model. So this is a hack before we have universal solution to this problem, but it's a very powerful hack because everyone has a phone, and it's very, if you have a specific vision, you should just do it.
Understanding that, so you take a phone, film my movement, as basically I would then give 2 inputs, like the camera movement and first frame, or how? First frame,
camera movement, or the video itself, and text. You can still tell it hey, I want you to replace this person with an eggplant, but you get the point. And there's actually 9 levels that come into it. So the tool actually lets you play with 9 levels. And on the leftmost end, you can say hey, I have set up my shot as I like it to keep all the structure, keep facial expressions and movements and everything. Right. On the extreme right, it's like, hey, this is just a guidance. Go imagine and go wild, right? This is just a random shot I found from somewhere. Go wild. And in between are levels of that. And we built this very sophisticated tuning system that chooses the right thing based on what you have selected. So it gives you creative freedom, or you're no, I know what I'm doing. This is what I want to do. So for professionals, it's on the left end. For more when you're in the previous phase, or you're just exploring, you're on the right end.
Yeah. That's awesome. Obviously, there's a cool update coming out, but what else do you see for the future with Luma AI, and especially in the media and entertainment space?
Yeah, we are doing an immense amount of work with some of our partners in this space. So this includes some very professional workflows. See, last year was mostly about just bringing up the infrastructure for video models, making them good enough where you can even start to think about using them. Before it was oh God, this morphs so much. How can I ever imagine anything? In fact, the morphing was the entertaining part. It's oh, I ran through the wall, right? These kind of things. With Ray2, the model we launched in January, it finally got to a place where I would show this to people. They're like, oh, well, I can just use the shot, right? It finally got to that place. And now we are working on the next generation of models, but also many production workflows that are necessary for the outputs of these models to be used in traditional pipelines, right? I think that's really important because you can't tell to someone swap out all from zero and then or start from zero. I don't think that works because neither the tools are there, the AI models aren't there, nor are humans like that. So being able to fit into traditional workflows, we also have a few productions that we are working with some of our partners, and that is teaching us immensely what does it mean to actually make these models work in professional settings. That's one whole track, and there's many things you're going to see in the coming weeks and months basically that pretty much nobody's tackling at the moment because everybody's making models that are good for social media, but that looks very different.
Yeah,
very different from a cinematic workflow. Even low budget cinematic workflow, let alone Steven Spielberg cinematic workflows. So that's one vein. Second vein is we are thinking very deeply about how would people create in the future. So this is getting into current workflows, and that's great. But I think basically everything changed when you could do something on a laptop. Right? I'll give you a very left field example. The reason we had COVID vaccine in 12 hours, because, mRNA can be modeled on a laptop. You don't need a wet lab, you don't need 6 months, and you don't need the kind of hardware and infrastructure you need. What's happening with video generation is the same, where you shoot, in just one room, and with the new performance thing that we're releasing, actors and all these things, you can shoot in a place. You're not bound by weather. You don't have to go to Iceland or Ireland for that matter. And that changes really what can be made and how it is made, and finally who it is made by. So the concrete answer on that front is that we are doing a lot of exploration in what does a software studio look like?
Software film production studio, right?
Or I would rather say software storytelling studio, right? I don't think there's any reason to limit to 90-minute formats, right? It should go all gamut, but it doesn't look like the current crop of generative models, not models, sorry, but the tools, because the tools are you type in something, you get something, right? And that's basically it, you're done, right? But when you're in a production, everyone has a shared state of mind. Everyone knows this is what we're doing, right? Like, this is how it's going. Everyone has a role to play. There's like many things that are going on in this world. What does that look like if you did this in software? Right? Like, what if someone who is great at camera control was actually driving the camera part of it? Like, these kind of things. So we're doing a lot of the work on those kind of workflows. The next model also, like, it's almost done training. So I'm quite excited about that. It's not just yet another follower to Ray2, which is like, okay, I mean, Ray2 is fantastic, but it's a categorically different model. We'll train Ray3 afterwards, but this is a categorically different model.
So this is in between Ray2 and Ray3?
No,
or it's different, separate?
It's on a different track.
So what's different about it?
I can't tell you yet. Soon, but I can't tell you yet. At the end of the day, it is still like, a multimodal model. It can make video, audio, and these kind of things, but it's a different track of model. And I think, I don't know yet if people will love it or not, but we have been having a lot of fun with it. So I think people might like it.
Okay. Go back to the workflow idea, because this has come up a lot, and it's like, do you think it's going to be in the future where existing filmmaking pipelines figure out how to adapt AI and fit into their pipeline? Or is AI, generative filmmaking, going to develop its own new pipeline, or both?
Both. I think, so what's going to happen basically is that, like, people who have been in the industry, right, and who know a lot of the tricks of the trade, this is how I get this and not, right, they will start mixing and matching, and that's already happening, right? They will start mixing and matching, and they will pick, like, okay, this tool from this area and generative model for this and this kind of things. And soon enough, it will be a gradient, right? You have the utility of AI rising and the utility of traditional tools like, or procedural approaches kind of going down over time. Whether that eventually looks like it's completely replaced, I don't know. I don't think it matters. And then there's a second crop of people who will start making movies and stories for the first time with these tools. And their workflows are the ones to watch, because their workflows are going to be the things that make, really surprising things. And then we're like, how the hell did you do that? Right? Yesterday, this is really funny. There was a video on X, which had like 200 million views or something like that, ridiculous. It was a kangaroo who was caught at the immigration line. And that was made with Luma, we learned. And
they used Luma for that?
It's topical because of the immigration stuff that's going on right now. And you see the kangaroo's face and things like that. It's like ridiculous, right? This is so funny. But there's a nerve there that, like, it's called memes, but, like, memes are actually the zeitgeist of like what people are thinking. It's the reflection of the culture and the society at that moment. So I am very interested in what, like, 14-year-olds, 18-year-olds who have never made a movie, who want to make movies, who, like, want to make videos. And as you know, like, YouTuber is now and TikToker is now at the same level of career aspiration as astronaut. Amazing. I'm sorry.
I thought you were about to say Hollywood director, but yeah, astronaut too.
Right? So those are the workflows we should watch. Those are the workflows that, that's going to be the future, right? Like, those are the people who will come into the industry. Those are the people who will, like, whose names we will know tomorrow, whose stuff we will watch, and how they made it. It's going to be really interesting.
I was laughing because yesterday we brought up the kangaroo video.
Really?
And when you're like, I have a thing to say, I'm like, is it the kangaroo video?
Yeah, it was a kangaroo video.
It was, like, so good because it was, at first glance, like, just looks like an iPhone video, and it, like, looks real enough and convincing enough, and the kangaroo's holding the ticket.
Yeah. The way it's coming from Luma is because, like, we don't have an audio speech model exposed yet in the thing. So someone tried to still use the audio part of it to generate the speech, and the speech it comes out is very idiosyncratic. And, like, they're not saying anything. There's no words. Yeah. It's just, like, these kind of noises. They're using, like, sound effects as speech. And so that's how you tell that it is made.
Yeah. And also, just ties into something topical. It's like emotional support kangaroo. Well, this is crazy. What are people trying to do? You have a partnership with HUMAIN that was announced. Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, I'm very excited about that. Basically, HUMAIN is Saudi Arabia's stake in the ground for AI. And as you're seeing right now, artificial intelligence is a national security and national economy concern. Right? For every country that is involved, I'm sure Greenland has a policy, right? We just don't know because we don't care. Oh, sorry. There's 30,000 people might be offended with me. I'm okay with that. But every nation has to think about how their people will use this, because it's a huge productivity change. Gain or not, we don't even have to think about it. It's a huge productivity change. How do nations and economies function? Productivity. That's basically right? Like, how does GDP grow? After you run out of natural resources to exploit, you increase the productivity of your people so that, like, they can do more in less time and while still live a great life. That's how the history has come about. AI is the biggest change in that. So HUMAIN is this incredible effort from Saudi Arabia, and they're building massive data centers, right? Like I think the 2030 capacity is about 6.5 or 10 gigawatts, and it goes further from there. They're also building the full stack of the infrastructure, from the data center to the GPUs to the services to the agents and all these kind of things. So we have been working with them for a good 6 months now, and the partnership has only grown as we have talked to each other. And basically the mutual understanding is that, see, video actually the internet is going through these two very secular trends right now. One is internet is becoming zero click, which means you don't click around links anymore, like the blue links. I mean, some people still do, but you just get an answer from ChatGPT or even at Google, the top answer, you got it. Why the hell am I going to scroll down and click on links? Yeah. And second is that the substrate of the internet or the medium of information on the internet is changing from text to video. Mm-hmm. People spend 2 to 3 hours a day watching video on their phone, right? TikTok, YouTube, whatever have you, basically. That's how people learn. That's how people do how-to videos, oh, how do I do this? That's how people meet people now. That's how, you entertain yourselves. That's how you find out about news. So if you want to build that future where this massive source of information, right, we can actually make videos for every one of 8 billion people on the planet, right? And imagine it's not just a video that's one made for everyone, right? You have a different question than I do. Your entertainment looks different from my entertainment. If you want to make that level of personalized entertainment and information, we need the kind of partnerships that Luma and HUMAIN have actually struck. So it's a long, wide-spanning partnership across infrastructure, which is absolutely necessary. Capital, I can't quite talk about it just yet. You'll see that announcement in the coming weeks, but also on building models that go very far into actually solving these problems across gaming, media, these kind of things. So it's a very ambitious effort, and I'm very excited for it.
I guess one of the ideas is generative video at scale, personalized. So the way we're seeing these generative text responses.
That's right.
For searches, you get a video.
That's right.
Or video entertainment. The generative movie or generative entertainment where it's if you wanted your own special custom built sci-fi fantasy movie for you, always struck me as, from a collective perspective, if we're looking for shared entertainment or something, if you had entertainment just for you, who do you talk to about that, or who do you share about that? I've always wondered in this.
Streaming has already destroyed that. Every time in our group, it's oh, did you see that new episode? Don't talk about it. I haven't seen it yet. It's God damn it. So streaming has already destroyed it. But no, in all seriousness, absolutely. So the one for every person is the limit of that idea. But imagine in your friend group, you have a show that is about the internal fucking joke you have, right? And I think that's really interesting. You have things that are appealing to a niche. This is not a new thing, by the way. This is already in play. There are many things on Netflix you watch probably I don't even know exist. This is happening. And my core belief is basically a thing that is made for two people or media that is made for two people is categorically worse than what is made for one person, right? Because it is for them. Currently, we are in the habit of making one for 200 million people, 300 million people. So we make the thing that is lowest common denominator, appealing, right? It cannot target your specific interest, your geography, your neighborhood, someone who is insane over there. Imagine you're watching a movie and your insane neighbor appears in there, right? It is yours. You will never cancel that subscription, right? It's just not happening anymore. That's what people actually care about. And this is why people watch TikTok, because those are things TikTok is not magical because of anything but the algorithm. And people care about it because it's tailored to you the moment you...
Yeah, it does a good job of getting the thing that you like to you. Like. Yeah.
Exactly. And there are things there or the videos you might be watching, there's 5 other people have watched ever, right? So that is a secular trend that is already in play. You and I can't actually stop it. So the question is, what would it take to actually build it? What would it take for storytellers to be able to produce, how many video editors in the world? Maybe 3 million, 3.5 million, give or take, right? So there's just no infrastructure on the planet to actually be able to address this demand of video. So the only solution is man plus machine.
We are at AI on the Lot.
Yeah.
What stood out to you? Kind of what have you impression's been of the event?
Oh, it's really cool. I've been invited to many AI media conferences, right? Most of the time, they're mostly like, they're okay. But this seems to be a very concentrated event. Of course, it's in Culver City. So like, that attracts the really interesting set of people. I've met many great people whose names I know from credits. I'm like, holy shit, did you do that? And that's really incredible. So being able to talk, and then so, there was a question that came up in the panel just now that I'm coming from, which is like NorCal versus SoCal. Right. And for people who are not from here, Northern California versus
San Francisco and Silicon Valley and LA and Hollywood.
Right. It's not versus. San Francisco has always been the place where the biggest vehicles for distributing Hollywood's ideas have come from. YouTube, right? Google, Mountain View, TikTok, China, but still musically happened in San Francisco. So these two places have been symbiotic for a very, very long time. And I think AI brings it way closer at this point, because now we're not just talking about distribution platforms versus creation. Now we are talking about all together. So I think this event has been very interesting in that regard, to understand what people's sentiments are, where they are. What's really interesting is last year, this is interesting. We're trying. Oh, but this is AI. What do you do about data? These kind of things, right? This year, I tried to do this. This doesn't work for me, really. Look at the shift. That's absurd, and that is amazing. So these kind of events are actually really valuable to bring people together who are coming from these two sides of the thing and get them talking. Get them to figure out what is working, what is not working, what are people worried about, what do people want, all these kind of things. So,
cool. Thank you so much, Amit.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.